Kia ora hoa mā, ko Justin TNA. In this video, I am going to go through one of the most commonly asked questions that I get from teachers, and that is, how do you run a Kapa Haka practice? How do you run a waiata session at your school with your class or with your Kapa Haka group? And I've broken it down into 6 steps, so let's get into it. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Justin. I'm an actor and a teacher. I help teachers across Aotearoa bring te reo Māori, Kapa Haka, and waiata to their classroom regardless of their skill level. Okay, so step 1 I'm calling setting the stage. And setting the stage for me is about being really intentional about the learning environment that you want to create. My experience of Kapa Haka when I was a kid was often not a very fun experience. Like, often it was really scary, or it was very drill sergeant-y, or we were scared of getting growlings or doing things wrong. And honestly, could sometimes feel really laborious, something that I didn't want to be a part of, which is really counterproductive, right? And first of all, I understand where this comes from. We want to make sure that we're being really respectful of taonga Māori and mātauranga Māori. We want to make sure we're doing it right, that the kids aren't making fun, that they're not mucking around. Like, I totally get all that. But if we lean too hard into that and we're really disciplinarian, as was some of my experience as a kid, then kids actually just won't want to do it. So an example of setting the stage, step 1 that I think about is essentially just coming up with a bit of a mission statement. It feels a little bit corny, but being that explicit might help. So for me, my mission statement when I'm setting the stage is, I want to create an environment that is fun. I want to create an environment that is respectful, but where kids are free to play, free to try things out, free to co-construct, so it's a two-way street. When you set the stage mentally for yourself, then that kind of carries through in the session as well. Okay, so step 2 I'm calling create a clear and tidy start. Making sure that the kids aren't running in and kind of running around and stuff, but there is a bit of a ritual to the way that we come in. Sometimes when I've seen some Kapa Haka sessions run, kids are running in, running out, and it's kind of, there's no clear start. So really what we want to do is give a really clear start for the kids so that they can start to know what to expect. We're going to line the kids up. So we're going to have girls in the front and boys in the back. If you have a formal Kapa Haka group, if it's just a waiata session, they can just be kind of sitting in lines of class. But for a Kapa Haka practice, we'll have the girls in the front in rows, no more than 20, I think, 20 across, 20 across, 20 across. Any more than that and it gets kind of too wide. You really want to focus the energy. You want to have the same place. They always know they're going to go to these lines, we're going to sit like this. The kids know what to do and they go to these places each time. Okay, next you might want to start with a karakia. Now, a karakia is not strictly religious. It can be religious, but a karakia is essentially an incantation or a bit of an intention setter, again, to use that word again, for us all as we begin what we're about to do. So I'll link karakia here, or you'll find a link for a karakia that you can use, simple non-religious karakia. And that is a really, again, it's creating these little rituals that the kids know what to expect, and they come in, and that can kind of, as you'll know, right, with anything, if kids know what to expect, they know what to do, and then you can kind of guarantee results more or less if the same things in the setup are happening. One thing I like to do is be really overt with the kids about what I'm trying to do. So instead of just being like, hey, we're going to do this karakia now, I will, at least initially in our first practices, be like, hey, so we're going to do a karakia. What is a karakia about? So kind of co-constructing the outcome a little bit. And then saying, it's a really good way for us to get centered and get focused and come together as a group, because maybe we're different classes coming together. And then I always start with a warm-up. Now, a warm-up can literally be any game. Now, one of my favorite things about teachers is either they have a lot of warm-ups that they just know, or we're also really good at making games up out of nothing, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I kind of see a situation, I'm like, okay, how can this be a game? You don't want anything too high energy, so I've got a hand game, tahi rua tahi, that I'll put a link to here. Tahi rua tahi is really good because it's a focuser. They're not moving around, but they're working in sync with each other. So the whole idea with any warm-up you want to do is it needs to match the energy you want the kids to have. So for me, I want them listening to each other. I want them focused. So I will just always match it to that. But really what you're leading to do with this warm-up is you want to be leading it. And then you want to get the kids to kind of know it. So if we're doing, tahi, tahi, dua, tahi, if that's an example, eventually you want to get the kids, 1 or 2 of the kids to come up and they are leading. And this is the same actually with the karakia. You eventually want the kids to come up and lead it. And what we want to do there is start to identify who the leaders are in the group. And that's not just to be like, these people are going to be the confident leaders, but to start breaking down the barriers of leaders and followers to a kanataina. And that's that everybody and anybody can jump in and lead. That's what we really want. All right, so step 5 is like the bulk of the Kapa Haka practice, which is learning and trying. This is where we actually start to learn the waiata or the items. What you want to do for these is you want to break it down as much as possible. So we've got the waiata with the actions and everything all put together. It's a really good idea to start with having the kids be able to watch a video, or if you know the song, to perform the song, or any way that they can kind of see the end product, I think is a good place to start. And then you want to break down the bits. And so I would always start with the words, so they can say it, after you, or they can actually figure out the pronunciation. And it's a really good chance to nip any of the things at the bud. So if you start to hear they're pronouncing T's a little bit wrong, or they're not quite rolling the R's, this word stage, the trying and practicing, learning and trying, this is a good stage to really pick up on that. And then you want to go through the tune a little bit at a time, and then adding on the actions. Sometimes what I find is looping back and forth is really good. So as opposed to going all the words, all the tune, all the actions, we go, here's this word, here's this tune, let's put the action on, and we loop that together, and then we do that until we get through the whole song. So yeah, the other thing is mixing it up with the learning, with trying it out. So if they can have these little wins by getting the buzz of performance, I find that's really good. So we're trying out this part of the song, let's sing it and perform it all. We stand it up as though we're performing it. So we have these little micro wins along the way. And step 6 is practicing. So this kind of will happen once the kids actually know the song. We've done the learning and trying phase. We're a couple of practices in, they know the items, and now they just need to polish it. And this is where, the fun comes in, because the kids get to actually perform the songs, do the thing, then that's a real buzz, the performance. So the loop I'll go through for that is we will run the item, whatever the item is. I will ask them how it felt. It's again, this real co-construction I find is a real empowering way to position yourself in these situations. You say, how did that feel? What was really great, and what could we do better? And then have kids putting their hands up and really getting them used to this, so that they're taking ownership over their own performance. The great thing about Kapa Haka is it's in them, right? They're doing it. And so often it'll be like, oh, we could be a bit louder, or oh, so-and-so didn't come in, or we didn't come in at the right time. And then you'll run through the item again with just that focus. So you say, yes, great. Hey, you're right. We didn't all come in on that part. So we'll go through one more time, just focusing on that, so that we're not just running through the song for the sake of running through the song, but actually they're going through with a really clear purpose, which is, that's just really good learning to model, right? Actually, one more thing that I think is worth saying when you're running items back to back is really start to focus on those transitions. And so when they go he, we're just going to have a simple kiraro, and then they go into the next item, because I think that tends to be the trickiest part, really. They know the song, but it's like, what do we do in between? We just want to keep the smile on, keep the energy on, keep that focus, kiraro, and we start the next one. I think is really important. And step 7 for your successful Kapa Haka. Oh, did I say it was 6 steps, eh? There's actually 7 steps. Step 7 for your successful Kapa Haka session is like a closing karakia. So before we do that, you could have a little bit of reflection about what went well, what could we work on next time, what were some wins that we had, and what are we going to focus on to get better next time. And really what I'm trying to do here is leave the kids on a high, because one thing as seniors, as the kids get older, senior Kapa Haka tends to drop off, especially the boys. We're competing with like rugby and all these other fun things. So Kapa Haka has to be as good. So we really want to leave them on a high, leave them feeling good and associating that feeling with what they've just done. So celebrating wins and then closing with a karakia. It can be the same karakia or a different one if you've got a closing one. It doesn't have to be religious again, but it's just about connecting back to that initial intention that we had. Hey, what are we trying to do, and did we do it? Finishing on a high. Kapai, so those are my 7 steps for a successful Kapa Haka session at your kura or a waiata session. I hope you found that useful, and if you got any questions or want to tell me how you went, then get in contact with me. I always love to hear from you. I'll see you next time.